Hello, students. Congratulations on making it to the end of the semester. It's been a tough one, and you've faced a lot of unusual circumstances, so I'm really proud of you for getting through to the end. I want to use this time to talk about the work this week, the poems, and the final exam. Um, I've given everything to you in writing, or I will have by the time you see this video, but I just want to make sure everything's really clear. Before I get into those assignments, I hope you saw this announcement yesterday about the Pulitzer Prizes. It was a really great day for Black writers. It's pretty unheard of, I think, for one author to win two Pulitzers in a few years, and that's exactly what happened to Colson Whitehead. He won again yesterday after having won just a couple years ago for the Underground Railroad. The Black poet Jericho Brown won. I've linked to a video of him reading one of his poems, and he invented a new form. So this is really cool. A playwright won for drama. Journalist Nicole Hannah Jones won for the 1619 Project, which you should check out. It's amazing about the legacy of slavery in America. And then Ida B. Wells, who we talked about earlier this semester, also won a posthumous award. This is pretty amazing. It's really great when literary establishments recognize the work of up and coming writers, of Black writers, writers of color. So it was a good day. All right. So this week, you may have already seen this assignment. Most of you turned in your Song of Solomon assignment last night. If you have an extension, I'll look forward to getting those later this week. I've started grading these, and we'll have those to you later this week. I'll upload the graded versions to the assignments folder so you can read my feedback. I'm looking forward to reading more of your thoughts about Song of Solomon. There's my cat. The other thing I want you to do this week, in addition to the final exam, is to read these 5 poems. They are really great poems. One of the things I love about this poem in particular by Ross Gay, who's a fantastic poet, I encourage you to check out his other poems, is that he is responding with this poem to this earlier poem by Gwendolyn Brooks. So read these 5 poems. The in-class writing this week, you may not need to do it grade-wise. You may have already done at least 10. You might be happy with your grades. So you can skip this in-class writing if you want, or you can just be a lot more casual and just brief about your responses. I would really like to hear your reactions to these poems if you have time for the in-class writing. All right, so let's talk about the final exam. Before I show you the exam, I actually wanted to say that this is not the same exam that I had planned. You might remember that what I had planned was a 2-part exam with a short answer section where you identify authors, define terms, things like that. Instead of a rigorous, comprehensive 2-part exam about 4 to 5 pages of writing, I have decided to approach this differently. I think it's a good time to reflect, actually, in the middle of a pandemic, on what literature means to us. So here's the alternative. Here's the exam that I have come up with instead. I think you'll like it a lot better. The assignment is to reflect on what we've read this semester, to look back at the syllabus and all the stuff that we read, and think about what's been your favorite, what's meant the most for you, what's going to stay with you, what you got most out of reading, and why. Okay? This is an open book exam, so I will want you to use specific details and at least a couple quotations from the text to help me understand what you liked about these texts. And I'm going to want you to focus on your reactions rather than on summary. You don't need to tell me about the plot of these texts because you know that I've read them. So instead, you can focus on what you liked about the plot, the characters, the meaning of the texts. Focus on your reactions to the literature. You can include any other thoughts about the reading that we did too. Okay, so you might want to think about what was most fun to read, what challenged you the most, what made you grow as a reader or student or human, what's going to stay with you, a variety of these things. You should pick texts by different authors rather than a whole bunch of Langston Hughes poems or something like that. Okay, the exam is still worth 200 points. And this is different too. You're going to have some control over the grade that you earn, because you can choose how many texts you want to write about and how long of a letter you want to write to me. And that will help determine the grade that you get. Okay, so let's take a look at this. If you want to earn an A, you're going to pick at least, you're going to pick 5 or 6 assigned texts by at least 4 different authors. So maybe 4 different authors, but that 5th text is an extra poem by Langston Hughes, for example. So at least 5 or 6 texts, provide the title and authors, write at least 700 to 1,000 words. In most fonts, that's going to be a little over 2 pages, 2.5 pages minimum. You're going to show me that you understand the texts. Again, you don't need to summarize the plot, but the way that you write about the text should show me that you understood them, and show me your original thinking, your original ideas. Like I've wanted all semester in your replies on D2L, in your posts, and in your in-class writings. An A letter will have strong use of details from the text, at least a couple of short integrated quotations, and it'll be organized into multiple focused paragraphs. So an obvious choice seems to be to have 1 paragraph on each text that you choose. Okay, if you want a B, just 4 assigned texts. Write at least 600 words. So it might be a B essay is going to be a little shorter. You're still going to have good comprehension and good use of textual evidence. Notice that the adjectives here are good instead of strong. For a C is going to be even shorter. So if you have limited time over the next week, you might just go for the C, 3 assigned texts, at least 500 words, show me that you generally understand, and perhaps your textual evidence isn't as strong, but you've made some attempt. Same with paragraphing. You'd really have to blow this off to get a D. Only 1 or 2 texts, less than 500 words, don't really understand what you're doing, maybe it's plagiarized. So I don't think anybody's going to be in this category. All right, so there's no pressure to choose this A option. I completely understand that your time and resources and energy are limited. So if you choose to write a C essay or a B essay instead of an A essay, that's your prerogative, okay? Format. I've said this should be a letter. I'd like you to write a letter to me directly, so you know exactly who your audience is. You can start your letter with something like, Dear Professor Koch. Letters always start with a greeting. And then it's a letter, so you can definitely use personal pronouns like I. I want to know your opinion, so it's okay to say I think, or I liked, or I didn't like, whatever it may be. Feel free to use a conversational style here. You can sound like you. You'll notice that grammar, spelling, punctuation, those things aren't even in this rubric. But I am an English professor, so you probably want to spend some time trying to proofread. You always want to make a good impression on your reader. Okay, if you would much rather write a traditional essay, you can do that instead. That's okay. I just thought a letter would be more fun, and it's okay to have fun. Please submit a Word doc, as usual, on D2L assignments. All right, so the deadline, as you know, is Wednesday, May 13th. That is the deadline that the college established when they created the final exam schedule. So there's nothing magical about May 13th. If you want to get it in earlier, that is just fine. I'm keeping this 11:59 p.m. deadline like we've used since we went online. But notice the asterisk here. May 13th would be great. If you are being affected by the virus or any other obstacles and you need an extension, all I ask is that you discuss that with me before the deadline. I need to plan my grading time pretty carefully to meet my grading deadline. So I do want to have a sense of when everything is coming in. So I would super duper really appreciate it if you could make the May 13th deadline. If that's impossible, let me know. If you can't complete the class in the next, I guess it'd be 2 weeks, then we can discuss taking a grade of incomplete. If it's just that you need an extra day or 2 for your exam, we can work on that. Okay. Again, remember this is the entire exam. There's not a short answer section like I originally planned. This doesn't have the same kind of difficulty. Originally, I was going to give you some very specific topics to write about, and you were going to have to make sure to cover every single historical period from the class, include a poet, include different genres. I'm stripping that way down so that you can reflect on what's meaningful to you this semester. Okay? Now, it's an exam, so don't get help. This should be your own work only. I won't help you with drafts on an exam, but if you have smaller questions, you can always email them to me. Okay? I hope that you enjoy writing this. I hope it's meaningful for you to reflect on what you've enjoyed reading, what's challenged you, what you've gotten something out of this semester. Okay? All right, thank you again for your hard work, and I look forward to reading your letters.